Hey everyone, I've got quite a few videos in the works right now that are coming soon, including the 2020 universe size comparison, but those videos are taking a while, so I thought in the meantime I might as well cover a bit more pseudoscience. This time I thought not to cover the flat earth, but the far more widespread and much more harmful creationism. A few days ago I came across the video "This is why evolution is wrong" by the channel Tomorrow's World Viewpoint that claims to be able to refute the theory of evolution using nothing more than probability. The arguments it presents have been thoroughly debunked many times and many years ago, but the fact that these arguments are still being brought up as recently as 2019 means I feel almost obliged to respond to them. Because these types of videos, even if factually wrong and manipulative in so many ways, can do a good job at confusing people who aren't that informed of the subject. I, without being an expert on any of the topics to be discussed, still consider myself to have at least a basic knowledge of science, and that's really all you need to refute stuff like this. So let's get into it.
The origin of life is a much debated topic. Some have dedicated their lives to finding an answer. Others write the question off as unanswerable. Just what is the probability of life occurring spontaneously from non-life with the ability to reproduce? We should remember that just because something exists does not mean the probability of the event is 100%, as the event may have been the result of a willful intervention. It has become abundantly clear that the Earth is the only place where life exists in our solar system.
Not true. In fact, it couldn't be less clear. Our solar system contains a total of about 40 objects large enough to be surrounded by gravity, which we might call planets, moons or dwarf planets. How many of these in total have we explored? Thoroughly, 0. The most explored object other than the Earth and Moon by far is Mars, to which there have been a total of 26 successful missions. These include orbiters and landers. Now think of the amount of exploration that's been done on our own planet, Earth. Earth has been explored and recorded for thousands of years, and to this day we're still discovering thousands of new life forms every year. To say that even Mars has been explored thoroughly is a gross overstatement, let alone the dozens of other objects in the solar system we literally haven't scratched the surface of. These include the large icy moons of Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus, as well as Pluto. All of these could quite possibly have vast amounts of liquid water. Hell, even Venus has the possibility of containing life in its upper atmosphere. Just the other day, a gas known to be produced by microorganisms was detected in its clouds. We just can't be certain until we have indeed explored these worlds thoroughly, which we certainly haven't, with less than a dozen missions having been sent to the outer solar system. To say that it's abundantly clear that Earth is the only planet with life in the entire solar system is dishonest at best, and isn't exactly forming a very stable premise for your argument.
All of the other planetary bodies have been explored to one extent or another, without revealing the existence of any organic tissue.
Wrong again. Like I said a minute ago, we still have a lot of exploring to do of the solar system, but as it turns out, in the relatively limited exploration we have done, organic material has been detected. Traces of organic molecules were detected on Mars by the Curiosity rover in 2014, and the Cassini probe detected complex organic molecules coming from the plumes of Enceladus in 2018, and there are currently several missions planned to go back to investigate these.
Well, how many planets might be out there in the Milky Way and the galaxies beyond? Can we expect that somewhere else life has spontaneously developed and is flourishing? What is the probability of finding life outside of the Earth? Traditionally, people under the influence of religion have viewed life on Earth as the product of a deliberate and planned creation. Others explain the presence of life through a slow process of development or evolution, which presently seems to be the most accepted point of view.
And for good reason too. The theory of evolution by natural selection is probably one of the most well-backed theories in science, supported by the massively extensive fossil record and the very existence of genetics. We can even observe rapid evolution taking place in bacteria, which is what causes antibiotic resistance, as well as in controlled environments such as guppies changing their behavioral and reproductive patterns when relieved of predators.
Well, how do mathematicians assess the probability of the origin of life? Probability is a field of mathematics that assesses the likelihood of an event occurring. Given enough information, all of the possible outcomes or arrangements of a situation can be determined. Mathematicians can therefore predict with considerable accuracy the possibility of an event occurring. When probability is used correctly, it can accurately predict the likelihood of election results, life expectancy of a population, likelihood of one purchasing a certain item. Let me give a simple example of probability. If you had a single die, the likelihood of rolling a 1 is 1 out of 6, as there is one desired result out of a total of 6 results. If you had a 10-sided die, the likelihood of rolling a 1 is 1 out of 10. In order to show this, we can first express the chances in a different way. 1 out of 100 would be 1 over 10 raised to the power of 2, because there are 2 zeros. 1 out of 1,000,000, 1 over 10 to the power of 6. In mathematics, if the chances of something occurring are less than 1 over 10 to the power of 50, we generally say the chances of that event are nil. That is, it will not occur. This is because 10 to the power of 50 represents a number that is far greater than the estimated number of planets in the entire universe.
This is quite a common quote used by creationists, but alas, I can't find any record of any mathematician saying this. Ever. And even if they did say it, they'd still be wrong. Why pick 1 in 10 to the power of 50 to decide when something won't happen? If something has a 1 in 10 to the power of 50 chance of happening, it has a 1 in 10 to the power of 50 chance of happening, not 0. We actually observe things that have a chance far smaller than that happening all the time. When looking up some examples of some really unlikely things that you can pull off easily at home, I came across this example. Take a deck of cards and shuffle it completely randomly. Now, think about the chance of the deck being in the specific order it is. Well, there's 52 possibilities for the first card, and then you're left with 51 possibilities for the second card, because the first card is taken. Then 50 possibilities for the third. This is expressed as 52 possibilities times 51 possibilities times 50 times 49 times 48, etc. This number is called 52 factorial. It's about 8 times 10 to the power of 67, 800 quadrillion times larger than 10 to the power of 50, yet they are in that order. This is just one of countless examples, and scientists deal with far, far bigger numbers than 1 in 10 to the power of 50 all the time. A complete falsehood.
The development of life from simple non-living matter represents the coming together of various molecules to form more organized and complex structures, which includes very intricate and essential molecular machines. Thus, the spontaneous development of life requires things moving from less order to more order. Evolutionary thought is predicated on the premise that matter can move to a higher state of order in an unguided or accidental way, not only once, but with literally millions of steps along the way.
Except we can replicate and observe things moving to a higher level of order all the time. The formation of the solar system, the growth of a plant, stars forming, water freezing into snowflakes, literally anything cooling down.
Mathematics holds an opposite view. To evaluate the likelihood of this possibility, mathematicians would first consider the second thermodynamic law, called the law of entropy, a law that demonstrates that all matter will tend toward a state of maximum disorder unless acted upon by an organizing force. As Dr. W.H. Thorpe puts it, the likelihood of life occurring by chance is fantastically improbable. The spontaneous formation of life violates the second thermodynamic law, which states that all closed physical systems tend toward a state of maximum disorder.
Yes. Entropy. Perhaps the most ill-represented concept in science. Disorder, so they say, can only increase without being acted upon by an organizing force. However, upon a bit of research into the topic, you'll find that there is actually no such law of entropy that describes anything similar to this. What Vakovich is actually referring to is the second law of thermodynamics, which rather states that the total entropy, which basically put is the level of disorder, of a thermally insulated system can never decrease over time, and is constant only if all processes are reversible. Note that this only applies to thermally insulated systems, that is, systems that don't receive heat from the outside. In this case, the system in which organic material would form from inorganic material, that is, a decrease in entropy, would be Earth. Now, what could possibly be supplying Earth with a source of heat as to render it not thermally insulated, and thus exempting it from the second law of thermodynamics?
Oh yeah, that thing.
According to Dr. Jean Morton, the probability for arranging amino acids for 10 enzymes would be 1 over 10 to the power of 113. It is estimated that the human body contains 25,000 enzymes. If each of these were only a small enzyme consisting of 100 amino acids with a probability of 1 over 10 to the power of 113, the probability of getting all 25,000 would be 1 over 10 to the power of 2,825,000.
Yes, it's certainly amazing that living things could arise from inorganic basic molecules, but it's nowhere near as unlikely as you're suggesting. This figure of 1 in 10 to the power of 113 for 10 enzymes is based on the particles involved coming together in completely random order, which is most definitely not what happened. It also assumes that entire proteins need to be synthesized in order for life to begin, which is untrue. What really happens is a massive number of random polymers forming, which are then subject to selection. On top of this, the Miller-Urey experiment demonstrated that amino acids can be produced from inorganic compounds under conditions much like that of the early Earth, with more recent experiments improving the similarity of the atmosphere under which the acids were synthesized. Don't believe me? I'll leave as many links as I can in the comment section of this video, because unlike this video, mine is intended to share knowledge and science rather than convince you of a pre-existing dogma. Also, to point out that human enzymes randomly formed is extremely misleading. Bear in mind that what you're discussing here is abiogenesis, not the evolution of humans. There is a distinction to be drawn between the evolution of life and the beginning of life.
To put it another way, former astrophysicist and head of mathematics at Wales University, Dr. Wickramasinghe, and English astronomer Sir Fred Hoyle, who formulated the theory of stellar nucleosynthesis, described the likelihood of human evolution to be as mathematically plausible as, and I quote, a tornado blowing through a junkyard and leaving behind a complete and flyable Boeing 747. In the case of the 747, the organizing force which assembles it is a labor force of men and women. In the case of the cell, evolutionary scientists are turning over every rock in search of events or natural phenomena to explain evolution's triumph over probability and the known laws of nature.
I've actually repeated and spread a form of this argument myself. It's definitely a nice sounding argument that has now come to be known as Hoyle's fallacy among the vast majority of scientists. The catastrophic problem with this argument is that it completely ignores any processes and incremental steps that might have led to the creation of said complex organism that the plane is analogous to, and assumes that it came about through complete chance, which the points brought up previously have shown to not be the case. I mean, think about it. Are Boeing 747s not constructed through small incremental steps and an amalgamation of different ideas and parts?
These men I have quoted are some of the most respected mathematicians on the planet. They are not religious nutcases.
Indeed they are not. In fact, upon researching these two men, I found that Sir Fred Hoyle is actually an atheist, and was actually using the argument quoted to support the hypothesis of panspermia. That is the very real possibility that life on Earth, or at least the building blocks for it, originated in comets and asteroids that collided with the early Earth. Now, however likely you may think the panspermia hypothesis is, and that it's just kind of pushing the problem back a notch, Hoyle certainly wasn't arguing in favour of a god, and I'm not too sure he'd appreciate you misrepresenting him. Chandra, on the other hand, definitely seems to lean towards the old Earth creationism in his arguments, from what I've seen, though I might be wrong on this. Either way, what does it matter? A big part of science is coming to conclusions based on observation and evidence, not being led by authority. I could just as easily point out that the vast majority of scientists and physicists and evolutionary biologists are atheists, which is true by the way, but it would hold absolutely no weight to my point. Likewise, even if both of these men were adamant on the existence of an intelligent designer, it would hold absolutely no weight to yours.
They have looked without prejudice at the notion that life evolved by chance from non-life and has progressed through natural selection into the complex forms we have today. And they have come to the same conclusion. To accept evolution, one must first accept that the impossible happened.
And that's the end of the video. Notice that not once along the way did he actually tackle the subject of evolution, but focused entirely on abiogenesis, which isn't actually evolution to begin with. The theory of evolution describes how organisms go from one form to another, not how the first organism came to be. And this helps my point. Even if it was still proven somehow that God breathed life into the first organism, it wouldn't one bit refute evolution, because evolution describes what happened after the fact. In closing, it is true that the exact time and origin of life on Earth is a mystery. But we've never solved problems and mysteries using ancient superstition and real-life deus ex machinas. If one thing is truly going to get us to the bottom of this mystery that is ourselves, it certainly won't be a god, or the Bible, but the pinnacle of human thought that we call the scientific method. And you know what? If the scientific method ends up leading to a god, then fair play. But at the moment, it's not looking too good. Well, that concludes the video for today. It's certainly not going to be the last video for months, like I said. I've got quite a few videos in the works ready to come soon. I might also cover some more of these types of videos because there seems to be way more than I thought. Other than that, I've got a Discord if you want to join and talk about anything but science. I also launched a Patreon, which is offering some interesting stuff, and I haven't really plugged it before, so I guess now is a good time to begin. So if you want to get in early and head over there, there'll be a link down in the description. And thanks for watching.